I wanted to touch her. God knows how I wanted to touch her. But my hands, one was made of dirty, trembling flesh, the other was a claw of incandescent stone that pulsed with a red warning light. I was a monster before a sacred icon. The crystal tree in front of us wasn't vegetable. It was solidified data structure, an organic server pulsing with a milky white light, and in the trunk, fused to the glass, like an insect trapped in eternal amber, was her face. My grandmother, Dona Eulalia. She didn't look dead. She looked paused. The skin of her face had the texture of antique porcelain, cracked in some places where the light from the trunk leaked through. Her eyes, those eyes that always knew when I was lying, were now made of fiber optics. They shifted slightly, focusing and defocusing, trying to find me through the layers of code. "Grandma?" My voice came out like a whimper, a pathetic sound in that cathedral of silence. The glass lips moved. There was no breath of air, just a vibration that resonated in the bones of my inner ear. "The time is wrong, boy," she said. Her voice had the familiar cadence, the mountain accent, but beneath it there was a hiss, like a scratched vinyl record. "The sun didn't rise today. The chickens didn't come down from the roost. Why are you wearing that stone skin?" I took a step forward. The heat in my right arm increased. It was a needle-like pain, as if the basalt was trying to reject the proximity to that tree. The red of my hand illuminated her face with the color of clotted blood. "They took you," I whispered. "They put you in the machine." The face in the tree frowned, an expression of painful confusion. "Nobody took me, Leandro. I am the root." She closed her eyes for a second, and when she opened them, they glowed with a vertical stream of data. "I sustain the memory of the house. If I leave, the roof collapses. If I leave, you forget who you are." I felt a hand on my left shoulder. It was Lucas. His touch was heavy, cold. "Don't listen to the content, Leandro. Look at the structure," Lucas said, his stone voice devoid of any sentimentality. "Look up." I looked, and what little remained of my human heart broke. The branches of the crystal tree stretched for hundreds of meters into that dark dome, and on each branch, at the tip of each glowing fiber, was a fruit. They were heads, thousands of them, sleeping faces wrapped in translucent membranes. I recognized the village baker. I recognized the school bus driver who disappeared in '98. I recognized faces I had only seen in old photos, in newspaper obituaries. "It's a CPU, Leandro," Lucas explained, walking around the tree with a horrified technical curiosity. "This tree is the humanity processor. They harvest people, digitize their consciousness, and use these networked brains to render the reality outside. Your grandmother, she isn't a prisoner. She is a central processing node. She is dreaming the Taquara Ridge so the simulation can exist." I turned my gaze back to her face. The idea that her love, her memories, were being used as fuel to keep that nightmare running filled me with a fury I didn't know I possessed. My right arm reacted to my rage. The red glow intensified. The hum changed pitch. It stopped being an alert and became a charging sound, like a turbine spinning up before takeoff. My stone hand raised itself, pointing at the trunk of the tree. "Leandro, no!"
My grandmother's voice changed. It became metallic, polyphonic. Proximity error. Thermal threat detected. It wasn't her anymore. It was the system using her mouth. I'm going to get you out of there, I growled, my teeth clenched. But the system had defenses. The floor around the tree opened. They weren't holes, they were hatches. Out of them, the tall men didn't emerge. They were too slow, too ceremonial. What came out were the gardeners. They were small creatures, the size of large dogs, made of chrome metal and glass. They had multiple legs like crabs, and in the front, they didn't have mouths. They had circular saws spinning in magnetic silence and blue plasma torches. They swarmed out of the hatches, dozens of them, making a frantic ticking sound on the metal floor. Ticky, 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 ticky. Immune defense, Lucas yelled, backing up and kicking one of the gardeners with his stone leg. The impact sent the robot flying, shattering against the wall, but 3 others took their place. One of the gardeners leapt towards me, the spinning saw aimed at my flesh knee. Without thinking, I twisted my body and swatted it with the back of my right hand. The contact wasn't physical, it was explosive. A red shock wave erupted from my hand. The gardener wasn't just crushed, it was deleted. The metal dissolved into instant rust dust, and its blue light went out. I looked at my hand. It was smoking. The stone was becoming transparent, revealing a core of furious magma inside. You are the glitch, Leandro, Lucas roared, crushing another robot with his bare hands. Everything you touch turns to entropy. Use it. More gardeners appeared. They ignored Lucas now. All the sensors, all the glass eyes of those machines were fixed on me. I was the cancer that needed to be cut out. Leandro, leave! My grandmother's voice returned, fighting through the static. Her face in the tree was crying. Tears of liquid mercury dripped down the glass. The tea has gone cold, my son. Leave before the owner of the land arrives. Who is the owner? I screamed, firing another wave of red energy that vaporized an entire line of robots. The administrator, she whispered, the one with no face, the one who wears the night. The floor trembled. Above us, in the darkness of the dome, something moved, something colossal. It descended from the high branches of the crystal tree, moving like a giant spider. It was one of the tall men, but different. He was black, a silhouette made of pure void, absorbing the light around him. He wore no white mask. He had no face at all, just an infinite hole where his head should be. And he had 4 long arms, ending in fingers that looked like knitting needles made of light. He landed between me and the tree. The impact made no sound. The silence emanating from him muffled even the sound of the gardener's saws. You attempted to edit the master file. The black being extended one of his needle hands. It didn't want to attack me. It wanted my hand. It wanted the key. Lucas ran towards him, screaming a challenge of stone. The being didn't even turn. It just moved one of its rear arms and touched, gently, Lucas's chest. Lucas stopped in mid-air, and then he began to unravel. Not into blood, not into dust. He began to unravel into cubes, small blocks of reality, detaching from his body, floating upward, being reorganized. Leandro, Lucas tried to speak, but his mouth dissolved into geometry. Run! I was alone, me, the monster of stone and flesh, against the administrator of the void, before the tree made of the souls of my town. I looked at my grandmother. Her face was closing its eyes, resigned. The light in the tree began to pulse faster, a silent alarm. I had two choices: try to fight and be dismantled like Lucas, or do the unthinkable. I looked at my right arm. It throbbed with 1,000 burns. It wanted to discharge. I couldn't save my grandmother. She was part of the tree now. If I ripped her out, she would die. But if I left the tree standing, the nightmare would continue forever. Thousands of other people would be harvested. "Forgive me, Grandma," I whispered, feeling a warm tear roll down my human face. I didn't aim at the monster. I aimed at the trunk, at the base.
The sound of the heart monitor stopped. Not because someone turned it off, but because the hospital, the lab, the abyss simply ceased to exist. I woke up with the taste of mud in my mouth. Red, fierce, dirty mud. The mud of the Takwara Ridge. I didn't open my eyes right away. I lay there, face down, feeling the freezing rain beat against my back. It was a messy, chaotic rain, without rhythm, a rain that followed no algorithm at all. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever felt. I tried to move and screamed. This time the pain was human. My muscles ached as if they had been torn apart and stitched back together with wire. I rolled onto my side, coughing up water and bile, and looked at the sky. It was gray, a dirty, cloudy, banal gray. There was no data doom, no golden sphere, no impossible geometry, just clouds heavy with an ordinary storm. I sat up, putting my weight on my left arm. The right one, I was afraid to look at the right one. When I finally gathered the courage, what I saw made me swallow hard. The red light was gone. The pulsing was gone. My arm was no longer an antimatter cannon or an access key. It was charcoal. The lead-gray basalt had become black, opaque, and brittle. It looked like a tree branch that had been struck by lightning and instantly carbonized. I couldn't move the fingers. They were fused into an eternal claw, pointing at nothing. The stone was dead. But it was still there, welded to my shoulder, a funeral monument to what I had done. I looked around. The factory, or what was left of it, was a graveyard of ruins. The walls no longer floated. They had collapsed. Piles of bricks and twisted iron beams covered the ground, and in the center, where the hole should be, where the descent to the Silver City should be, there was only dirt. The earth seemed to have healed violently. The ground was churned, burned, vitrified in some spots, as if a nuclear explosion had been contained and smothered by the earth's crust. They closed the door. They sealed the wound. "Lucas?" I called, my voice weak, pathetic. "Lucas?" I stood up, stumbling. My feet tripped over the debris. "Lucas, it's over! We did it!" I shouted, looking for any sign of movement in the devastation. I walked to where I calculated he was when the black being touched him. There was no body. There was no blood. There was a pile. A long pause, sound only of the rain and the narrator's irregular breathing. In the middle of the mud and broken bricks, there was a small pyramid of cubes. Black, perfect cubes of a material that looked like matte obsidian. They were the size of gaming dice. I fell to my knees before the pile.
I picked up one of the cubes with my left hand. It was heavy, heavier than it should be, and it was warm. I held that small black square against my chest and cried. I cried until I had no air left, because I knew what that was. Those weren't mortal remains. That was a zipped file. My cousin, my friend, transformed into raw data and left behind as system trash. He hadn't died. He had been archived, inaccessible, forever. I kept the cubes. I filled my pockets with them. Each one weighed a ton on my conscience. I wasn't going to leave him there in the rain. I started walking out of the factory ruins. The way back to my grandmother's house looked different. The woods were silent, not the tense silence from before, but an empty silence. The cicadas weren't singing, the birds weren't chirping, as if nature was in shock, rebooting its audio drivers. I reached the white fence. It was fallen, rotting, covered in moss. How much time had passed down there? Hours? Days? Years? The house was there, suspended on the brick pillars. The void was underneath, dark and damp. I stopped before the Mbuya wood stairs, those stairs I had polished so many times. I climbed slowly. The wood creaked, an honest sound. The kitchen door was unlocked. I went in. The smell hit me like a punch. Coffee, rope tobacco, stale bread. "Grandma?" I called, hope blooming in my chest like a painful weed. The kitchen was empty. The wood stove was cold. There was a cup on the table with leftover coffee that had already formed a skin of green mold. Her chair was pushed back as if she had just gotten up. I walked through the house. The bedrooms were dusty, the beds made. She wasn't there. I went back to the kitchen and saw something I hadn't noticed before. On the wall, near the old calendar from 2 decades ago, there was a stain. It wasn't dampness, it was a scorch mark. A soot mark on the wall in the exact shape of a person's shadow. The shadow of a small woman with a hair bun holding something in her hand. I touched the stain on the wall. The soot dirtied my fingers. I had seen her light rise. I had seen her escape. But her body, her physical existence, was consumed by the energy I released. The mother didn't give her back. The mother deleted the avatar and freed the user. I sat in her chair. I placed my charcoal hand on the wooden table. I was alone. The world outside, the real world, looked flat. The colors weren't as vibrant. The sound of the rain seemed like a low-quality audio loop. I looked at the coffee cup and saw the polygons. I looked at the window and saw the light's refresh rate. They fixed the bug. They plugged the hole, but they did a sloppy job. I am the only one who notices. I am the only one who sees the seams. I am the watchman. I am the glitch they couldn't patch. I am the man with the dead stone arm that stops them from rising again. Yesterday, I was on the porch, looking at the edge of the woods. The sun was setting, tinting the sky with that bruise purple I know so well. And there, at the edge of the trees, where the shadow is deepest, I saw it. Not the tall man in the white suit, not the black administrator. I saw a gray silhouette, static, just watching me. He had no face, but he tilted his head in a subtle nod and then disappeared like a dead pixel on the screen of reality. They are still there, running in the background, waiting for the system to crash again, and I will be waiting. Final sound, the clink of a teacup being placed on a saucer, a deep sigh, and then the sound of a computer being abruptly shut down.